Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert T. Kiyosaki. Welcome. Find a comfortable seat. Take a breath. What you are about to hear is not just a book. It is a lens that, once placed before your eyes, will change the way you see every dollar, every decision, and every dream you have ever had about money. Prologue. Two Fathers. Robert Kiyosaki had two fathers. One was his biological father, a man of remarkable academic achievement, a PhD, a government official, a man who believed with every fiber of his being that a good education and a steady job were the twin pillars of a secure life. The other was his best friend's father, a man who never finished 8th grade, a man who built businesses, a man who, by the time Robert was a young adult, had become one of the wealthiest people in Hawaii. Same city, same era, two completely different worlds. Both men shaped Robert profoundly. Both offered advice, guidance, and a model for how to live. But their philosophies about money, about work, about wealth, about risk, could not have been more different. Robert calls them his poor dad and his rich dad, and this is the story of what each man taught him. The question is not which father you were born to. The question is which father you choose to listen to. Chapter 1. The Rich Don't Work for Money. Picture a 9-year-old boy. His name is Robert. It is 1956. He and his best friend, Mike, have just been told something remarkable by Mike's father, a man they will come to call Rich Dad. I won't pay you much. In fact, I'll pay you almost nothing. But I'll teach you something that school never will. The boys swept floors. They stocked shelves. They worked Saturdays for 10 cents an hour, barely enough for a candy bar. And then, after weeks of this, Robert had had enough. He marched up to Rich Dad and demanded to know when he would start learning something useful. You're angry. Good. Use that anger. But direct it at the right thing. Don't be angry at me. Be angry at the trap most people fall into without ever knowing it. That trap has a name. It is called working for money. Here is how the trap works. You wake up, you need money to pay your bills. You take a job. Your paycheck arrives. For a moment, the fear recedes. Then desire kicks in. You see things you want, things you believe will make you happy. You spend. The fear returns. You go back to work, and the cycle begins again. Kiyosaki calls this the rat race, and he points out something devastating. Most people run it their entire lives without once stopping to question it. The poor and the middle class work for money. The rich have money work for them. That single sentence, 9 words, is the beating heart of everything that follows. Fear and greed are the two engines of the rat race. Fear of poverty keeps people in jobs they hate. Greed keeps them spending every raise they get. And so, despite earning more as the years go by, they never truly get ahead. The more they earn, the more they owe. Rich Dad's lesson was not to eliminate fear or desire. It was to observe them, to think with your head, not your emotions, to pause when the anxiety rises or the longing calls and ask a different question. Not, how do I find a better paying job? But, how do I make money work for me? Chapter 2. Why financial literacy is the real education. Imagine 2 identical households, same income, same neighborhood, same age. In 10 years, one family is wealthy, the other is drowning in debt. What separated them? Not luck, not intelligence, not even hard work. It was one thing: knowing the difference between an asset and a liability. Kiyosaki says this is the foundational rule of wealth, so important, so non-negotiable that he makes it rule number 1 and refuses to call it anything less. An asset puts money into your pocket. A liability takes money out of your pocket. That is it. That is the whole rule. And yet, and here is the maddening part, most people spend their entire lives buying liabilities while believing they are buying assets. Consider the car. You drive it off the lot and it immediately loses a quarter of its value. Every month, it demands insurance, fuel, maintenance. It takes money out of your pocket. It is a liability. Consider the house. For many people, a home is the largest purchase of their lives, and they are told it is their greatest asset. But ask yourself this: does it put money into your pocket each month, or does it take money out? The mortgage, the property taxes, the repairs. For most homeowners, the house is a liability masquerading as an asset. Most people work all their lives paying for a home they never truly own, and while their money flows into that house, opportunity flows past them unnoticed. The rich, by contrast, spend their lives accumulating real assets, businesses that earn without their constant presence, stocks and bonds, income-generating property, royalties from creative work, notes and financial instruments that grow quietly while they sleep. The pattern of the middle class is heartbreaking in its simplicity. Income rises, expenses rise to meet it, assets remain small, liabilities grow large. And every raise, every promotion, every bonus gets absorbed into a lifestyle that feels prosperous but is, financially, walking backwards. It is not how much you make, it is how much you keep, and how hard that money works while you rest. Chapter 3. Mind your own business. There is a question Kiyosaki likes to ask people he meets at parties, in boardrooms, on aeroplanes. What is your business? And almost invariably, they tell him their job. I am a nurse. I am an engineer. I am an accountant. And he nods and asks a follow-up question. Do you own the hospital, the engineering firm, the accounting practice? The answer, almost always, is no. Here is the distinction that most people never make. Your profession is not your business. Your job is what you do for someone else. Your business is what you build for yourself. Rich Dad's third lesson is blunt and liberating in equal measure. Keep your job, by all means, keep it. Pay your bills, honor your commitments. But while you do that, quietly, consistently, begin building your asset column. Start minding your own business. Real assets, the kind that build genuine wealth, fall into a handful of categories. Businesses that operate without requiring your daily presence. Stocks, bonds, income-generating real estate, notes, royalties from music, books, patents. Anything that has real value, generates income, and can be sold in an open market. A brand new car the moment you drive it home is not an asset, no matter what your banker says. Personal possessions, the television, the wardrobe, the furniture, are not assets. They depreciate. They cost you money simply by existing. The rich focus on their asset column. Everyone else focuses on their income statement. That difference, subtle, unglamorous, and entirely within your control, is where wealth is won or lost. Chapter 4. Taxes, corporations, and the rules of the game. Here is a history lesson that most schools will never teach you. When income tax was first introduced, in both Britain and America, it was sold to the public as a tax on the wealthy. The poor and the middle class cheered. Finally, they thought, the rich would pay their fair share. And so they voted for it. What happened next is one of history's quiet ironies. The rich, faced with this new burden, did what the rich have always done. They adapted. They hired lawyers and accountants. They discovered the corporation. The corporation is not merely a business structure. It is, in Kiyosaki's words, the greatest legal secret of the wealthy. Here is why it matters. A corporation earns money, pays its expenses, and then pays tax on what remains. An individual earns money, pays tax first, and then tries to live on what is left. The rich pay expenses through their corporations, their cars, their travel, their meals, their education, before the taxman arrives. The middle class pays for those same things with money that has already been taxed. Same expenses, profoundly different financial outcomes. Kiyosaki is not advocating dishonesty. He is pointing to a legal, legitimate system that has always existed, but that only those with financial education have ever been taught to use. He identifies 4 pillars of what he calls financial IQ. First, accounting, the ability to read numbers and understand what they are telling you. Second, investing, making money grow. Third, understanding markets, knowing how supply, demand, and emotion move prices. And fourth, the law, understanding tax advantages, corporate structures, and the legal tools that protect and multiply wealth. Chapter 5. The rich invent money. There is a moment in most people's financial lives when opportunity appears. It does not arrive with a fanfare, it comes quietly. A piece of land priced below market, a struggling business that could be turned around, a partnership that others have overlooked. Most people miss it. Not because they lack intelligence, not because they lack desire, but because fear of failure, fear of looking foolish, fear of losing what little they have, closes the door before they can step through it. Financial genius requires both technical knowledge and courage. If fear is too strong, the genius is suppressed. The rich, Kiyosaki argues, do not simply find opportunities. They create them. They see value where others see only risk. They act where others hesitate. And when they lose, and they do lose, they treat that loss as tuition. Expensive, occasionally painful, but ultimately educational. He tells the story of a tax sale, a piece of real estate available far below its market value. His friend saw the opportunity, hesitated, worried, and ultimately walked away. Kiyosaki bought it, sold it months later, and used the profit to buy the rental property that changed the course of his financial life. The lesson is not that you should be reckless. It is that calculated boldness, backed by education, not ignorance, is itself a skill, one that can be learned, one that must be practiced. Chapter 6. Work to learn. Don't work for money. A young journalist once interviewed Kiyosaki and, at the end of their conversation, confided that she wanted to write a novel. She had a story she believed in deeply, but her manuscript kept being rejected, and she did not know how to reach readers. Take a course in sales and marketing. She was offended. She was a trained writer, she said. She had no interest in becoming a salesperson. The bestseller list is not called the best written list. It is called the best seller list. Kiyosaki's 6th lesson cuts against the grain of conventional career advice. Most people are told to specialize, to become the best nurse, the finest engineer, the most accomplished lawyer in their field. Mastery is rewarded, they are told. Depth is valuable. Rich Dad saw it differently. He believed in breadth, in knowing enough about many things to make them work together. Accounting, investing, marketing, law, management, communication. Not mastery of each, but literacy in all. He particularly stressed the management of 3 things: cash flow, systems, and people. Anyone who masters those 3, he said, can run almost any enterprise. Kiyosaki encourages young people especially to choose jobs not for their salaries, but for what they will teach. Take the position that terrifies you a little, the one that will force you to learn sales, or operations, or leadership. The pay may be modest, the education will be priceless. Seek work for what you will learn, more than what you will earn. Chapter 7. Overcoming the 5 obstacles. Knowledge, Kiyosaki admits, is not enough. If it were, every accountant would be wealthy. Every economist would be a millionaire. Something else gets in the way. 5 things, to be precise. The first obstacle: fear. Everyone who has ever lost money knows the feeling. The stomach drops, the mind races. The impulse is to never do it again, to find something safe, something guaranteed, something that cannot hurt you. Kiyosaki does not dismiss this fear. He honors it. But he also points out that the people who become wealthy are not the ones who feel no fear. They are the ones who feel the fear and act anyway. Rich Dad. Failure is part of the process. Losers avoid failing. Winners fail, and then they learn. The second obstacle, cynicism. You share an idea with a friend. They tell you it will never work. You hear about an investment opportunity. Your inner voice whispers, "It sounds too good. Probably a scam." You read about someone who succeeded and think, they were just lucky. Cynicism, Kiyosaki says, is not wisdom. It is fear dressed in intellectual clothing. Cynics criticize. Winners analyze. The third obstacle, laziness. The laziness Kiyosaki describes is not the laziness of lying on a sofa. It is the laziness of the busy person, the man who works 60 hours a week and says he has no time to manage his investments, the woman who is so occupied running her household that she never asks whether it is earning or costing her. His antidote is not discipline, it is desire, a small, honest, unapologetic greed for something better, a vision of the life you want that is vivid enough to pull you through the discomfort of change. The fourth obstacle, bad habits. Most people pay everyone else first. The government takes its share, the mortgage is paid, the credit card minimum is met, and then if anything remains, they save. Rich Dad. Pay yourself first, even if the money is tight, especially if the money is tight. The pressure of unpaid bills, Rich Dad argued, is a creative pressure. It forces you to find solutions, to hustle, to negotiate, to think. People who pay themselves last have no pressure, and so they find no solutions. The fifth obstacle, arrogance. Kiyosaki defines arrogance with precision. It is ego plus ignorance. It is what happens when someone who does not understand a subject pretends or truly believes that they do. He has met many people who lost money in markets they did not understand, in tax strategies they had not studied, in businesses they had not examined, and who blamed bad luck, crooked advisors, or an unfair system. The cure is simple, if not always easy. When you realize you are ignorant about something, say so. Then educate yourself. Find a book. Find an expert. Find the knowledge that will transform that ignorance into advantage. Chapter 8. 10 Steps to Begin Your Journey. And so we arrive at the final chapter. Not a conclusion, but a beginning. Here are 10 steps Kiyosaki offers to anyone ready to start. Step 1. Find a reason greater than reality. Not just, I want to be comfortable. Something that makes you willing to be uncomfortable in order to get there. A reason that makes the sacrifice feel worthwhile. Step 2. Make choices. Every day, in small ways, you choose which father's lessons to follow. Choose daily. Choose deliberately. Choose the path that leads somewhere different from where you are. Step 3. Choose your friends carefully. Not to be elitist, but because the people around you shape your thinking in ways you may not even notice. Seek people who talk about ideas, about opportunities, about what is possible. Step 4. Master a formula, then learn a new one. Do not diversify before you have achieved anything. Pick one path, learn it deeply, profit from it, then expand. Step 5. Pay yourself first. Before the government, before the bank, before the utility company. A percentage of everything you earn belongs to your future self. Step 6. Pay your advisors well. A good accountant, a sharp attorney, a wise financial advisor. These are not expenses. They are investments. The ones who cost you least often cost you most. Step 7. Get something for nothing. This sounds like a fantasy, but it is a discipline. Invest in something. Get your initial capital back. Then let the profit continue to grow. This is what Kiyosaki calls getting your money back, and then playing with the house's money. Step 8. Let your assets buy your luxuries. Do not buy the car with your salary. Build an asset that produces enough income to buy the car. This one habit, practiced consistently, changes everything. Step 9. Find heroes. People who have done what you want to do. Study them. Learn their methods. Borrow their courage when your own runs thin. Step 10. Teach, and you shall receive. Generosity is not just virtue, it is a strategy. The act of teaching forces you to understand more deeply, and the habits of generosity tend, mysteriously and reliably, to return to the giver multiplied. Epilogue. Robert Kiyosaki's poor dad retired comfortably, but not freely. He depended on his pension. When it was reduced, his security shifted. He worked his whole life for money, and when the work ended, the money grew precarious. His rich dad died, leaving a legacy of businesses, properties, and financial knowledge to his family. He had spent his life building assets that would outlast him. 2 men, 2 lives. 2 entirely different relationships with money. The difference was not intelligence, it was not luck, it was not even ambition. Both men were ambitious. The difference was education. Not the education of degrees and diplomas, but the quiet, unglamorous financial education that most schools still do not teach and most parents cannot offer because they were never taught it themselves. That cycle can end with you. You do not need to be rich to begin. You do not need perfect timing. You do not need a rich dad of your own. You need a question. How can I make money work for me? And the willingness to follow that question wherever it leads. This concludes Rich Dad, Poor Dad, an audiobook adaptation. Thank you for listening.